And that motion was, let me make sure I clarify this, for Mike Steele to be coordinator and Chris to be co-coordinator, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
2 cards to be issued, one to Chris and one to Randy. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Mary Talkington seconds the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Do business with you. Thank you.
Thank you. All I
Thank
need is a signed copy of the minutes next time I see you. So next time we have those out, I just need those signed by.
Okay, sir. And they will not be approved until our next.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'll need the approval. So thanks for having me.
Before we go.
I'll call you Thursday. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll ask you a question, ask you about that. That's working on that, because there's a lot of people that do that. Working on that, to see if we can do that possibly.
What's that?
There is a lot of people asking. He says Beth is working on possibly letting people pay county commission with credit cards.
I think that's,
The modern way.
well, that's going to be part of the county website once we get that. It can be integrated.
The only thing I share on it is you sit in the driver's stick your nose in your business. More than they have right now. That's the only thing I've got.
You'd probably be surprised
Oh, yes.
to know just what they know.
Oh, yeah. I don't have that a bit. Because they've got their nose stuck in everything.
It's good to go along with the state auditor.
Well, I don't have everything.
Okay, further new business, I believe, Ed, you mentioned there a few minutes ago, you had something.
Yeah. Oh, you've already got that from Chris.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I've asked the county commission to begin looking at maybe consulting with other counties to see what their emergency services are. You're welcome. And so I spent a little time this week coming up with some information. I don't know where the county commission is right now as far as finding someone. Go ahead, I've got more to hand out in a minute. But what I did on this first page where it says 11 counties for consultants to poll, I took the 2010 census data, United States census data, and I took 11 counties, Doddridge being one of them, and looked at the population. So as you can see, we're very close to Gilmer County in population. We're half of Lewis, a little bit behind Tyler, a little bit behind Ritchie. We're half as big as Taylor, half as big as Barber, a little bigger than Ward, about like Calhoun, about like Tucker, and a little bit smaller than Webster. So that's population comparative between 11 counties, and the per capita income, as you can see, out of those 11 counties, the number one county for per capita income, that's the average income of one person in that county, is $20,292. So Taylor, out of 11 counties, is the best off financially. Out of the 11 counties, number 11 is Gilmer County. The average person there makes $15,686. And as you can see, Doddridge County is number 10 out of the 11 counties. And we're not a rich county with income. And then if you look at those who are below poverty level, Gilmer, again, is in the worst shape of the 11 counties. They have 29% of the people below the poverty level. Now, Doddridge isn't too bad. We're number 7 out of 11, which isn't too good either, but we're 20.4%. So what I'd like for the county commission to do, this is something for the board of directors to look at and come up with ideas at the next meeting, maybe we can put this on the agenda as an item of discussion, possible approval. And then the next page is whenever we do get a consultant or someone to go examine other counties and see how we compare, these are some sample questions that that person could go to these other 10 counties and ask. Number one, this would be questions for the financial officer of the county commission, such as Beth in our county. There's someone like Beth who knows what the county commission pays. Does your county commission provide financial resources to any ambulance services in your county? If so, approximately how much do you provide annually? So if we knew from 10 other counties what their county commissions are putting in, then we can say, well, how much is our county commission putting in for emergency services? And then that person would go to the emergency squad directors and those 10 other counties and ask these questions. And I'll not read all those to you. That's something that you can look at your leisure between now and the next meeting. But this would give data that we could look at and say, this is how many squads are on duty in other counties. And we'd say, well, Gilmer County is about the same size we are. This is how much ambulance service they have, how many squads they have on duty 24 hours a day. Then, if you skip over to 2 more pages, I just did, for whoever's hired, ambulance services by county. Now, I know there may be some I've missed. Gilmer County, if a consultant wanted to go and visit with the people in Gilmer County, they could call that number and ask Randy Glenn, whoever the director of services is for that squad, and say, can I come over next Thursday and sit down with you and ask you some questions? Because Doddridge County is trying to get some information on how other counties meet their emergency services needs. So I took all those counties and came up with at least one number for contact in each county. There might be others that, once you call Gilmer County, call Randy Flynn, he might say, well, there's another ambulance service in this county, and then he could give you their name and who to call there. So that would be, then if you go on to the next, over toward the end of that handout, I put down the courthouses for those 11 counties, the address, first the consultant will send them a letter, and the phone number where they can call and set up a meeting, come in and talk to the financial clerk in those 11 counties. So basically what I'm doing is just trying to pull together something that we could begin looking at logically, not by based on emotion, but say what do other counties provide, how much is it costing, and how many services do they provide. Then this might be a sample letter that Mr. Sandora, now I'm not telling Mr. Sandora, the county commission, what they offer. I'll keep one to take care of that. But if whenever you hire somebody to go out and survey other counties, they'll need some kind of a document saying we're approved by the Doddridge County Commission to come and ask you these questions. So you can use this, change it, toss it in the trash, smoke with your own, I don't care what you do, but this just gives you an idea of what you might send along with that consultant to these other counties so they know that that person is legitimate. Sandra, does that sound like you?
I was always puzzled by the 8,202 figures for Doddridge County.
Okay.
And I asked one of the census takers, and I confirmed it with another person. That includes the regional jail.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, which had a population around 600, 650. However, in terms of service that the county provides, that is a very valid number. What always puzzled me was per capita income.
Yes.
Now, you know what happens when you're in jail, you're not earning money, your income is pretty low. So I just look at that and I go, they must
So
not
they
calculate
probably don't include those
the
people
per
in the
capita income based on it. And if you look at Gilmer County, they have a federal.
Thank you.
And I wonder if that population is in their number.
I would think not. I think Gilmer County always has been poor, and they're,
But I mean, in terms of the
It
population.
has been a rough time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and what Mike's handing out now are what you might, county commission, this is not what you have to do, it's just as you begin looking to hire somebody, these are duties, some duties that you might want to consider that you'd ask that person to do. Because when you draw up a contract with them, you've got to tell them what you want them to do, what job you want to perform. And then the pay, this is just Ed Constable ideas. Throw it in the trash if it doesn't suit your needs. I just suggested that you might consider a $3,000 contract. And, you know, not based on the hour, but just to come up with that amount, I kind of figured an hourly basis. But if you want to just contract with somebody, you just say, we'll give you $3,000, you go out to these 11 counties, you go to Doddridge and get the same information from Doddridge, we'll pay you $3,000 to do that. And that's based on $30 an hour, estimating 100 hours to do this research.
I see one problem there.
Okay.
We had 3 hours attending one county commission meeting. That doesn't seem to be holding.
That's the president's responsibility. When that person shows up at 9 o'clock, you've got 3 hours to get them on the agenda.
Don't tell me, tell the audience. Okay, Chris has a question.
Ed, on this, where you got the phone numbers and everything, is that, you wanting the board to go maybe and talk to them? Is that?
No, not this board at all.
No, it's
No.
for the consultant.
Right, the
Okay.
consultant, and I don't know that even maybe you might not want to call it consultant, you might want to call it a research
Research
assistant or something, because basically what I'd like to see them do is gather all this data and bring it back so that the ambulance authority, the emergency service, the emergency squad, the county commission can analyze that data. Because right now, we're just operating in the dark. We don't know how we compare to other counties. We have no idea of how much money we should be putting into emergency services. So the only way to come up with what's reasonable is to say, what's happening in 10 other counties that are somewhat similar in size to us. And if we look at this and let's say Lewis County is twice as big as we are population-wise, and Lewis County is richer, and they don't have the poverty rate that we do, so they're better off, they're twice as big, and they're not providing the level of service we are. We might say, we're spending more money than we should be. Or, on the other hand, Gilmer County might be poorer than we are, and about the same population, and they're doing more than we are. Then we might say, well, maybe we need to up what we're doing. So right now, what I'm saying is we have nothing to go from based on common sense or logic. And that's all I'm asking is that we start gathering data. It might take 6 months, it might take a year, but at some point in time, I'd like to see our county move toward an emergency services program that's based on logic, logic and what's happening around us. So that we're not, that's what I'd like to get.
The past board did exactly what you were saying. Barbara, Chuck, Clint, when they went and set up and run the organization, they actually visited a lot of the counties that you have on here to go visit. I myself was fortunate enough to get to go with them to Gilmore and a couple of the other smaller counties to ask the questions because they weren't really sure how to operate one on the backside. So I got to go with them, And I do encourage the board to take a field trip, because there's questions that you could ask to meet with their board members and say, well, how do you all handle things as far as your board goes? It was a real learning experience for Chuck and Barbara and myself to visit these agencies and see how they dealt with things. Some of them are funded and subsidized by the county. Others get their payroll by the county. Others have to pay the county for the payroll that they bill. But what we found to be the big difference is they have people in their county that volunteer or that work there that live within 5 to 10 minutes of their place. Or in some of the other agencies, they had a hospital in their county, which the transfers subsidize that county agency. So there's a lot of big differences when you're looking at individual counties, basically per capita, that what do they do and how do they do it. Worth County, for a fact, they are self-sufficient and they pay their employees per run. And their call volume is not close to ours, but they pay per run. And they have a hard time getting people and keeping people. They've got a high turnover rate. But those agencies are nice to sit down and talk with. And even with a consulting coming, to try to get set up with, I would still encourage, and we got the Trailblazer, we can put the fuel in it and call and make appointments and, go meet with a couple of the board members of their agencies and talk with them and see how they operate and see, if we could work and change things to make things better. I know when Chuck and I went, and Barbara and all of us, there wasn't a whole lot of difference. We was doing really good, and they was impressed that we was as far as we was, being as young as we are. And it was a real learning experience. So I still think that, it's a great idea what you have, and I agree that a consultant would come in and be able to look things through a different window, to where, we're looking at survival and we're looking at, okay, well, I think, but they could have more of an approach to it. But still, as a board, I would encourage you to go to these counties and go to these agencies and just speak with them and say, like the other board did, and actually get some input to see if we can make things better, or because you haven't got to do that yet. You haven't got to see how they operate. You just got what I've been telling you, and this way here you could actually speak to these different agencies and learn from the ground floor and start to build up.
Randy, were there any minutes taken or any notes taken that?
Chuck took notes, but I'm not sure he
Do
did,
we
but I'll
have
call
them?
him. He had them.
Oh, okay.
They wasn't turned in an official capacity, but
Okay. I just
Chuck is more willing to, I can call him and ask if he's got the notes on it, because they did all that.
And the questions that I suggested to the consultant here are questions that I thought would draw out how we compare. And so I'd encourage the other board members to look at those questions when you get time this week and think, are there other questions that should have been added in there? And then we could add those in at the next meeting. For example, I didn't put in there a question of, do you use a billing agency to collect your money? Maybe some do and some don't. I don't know. But that would be a pertinent question that would gather some more data for us to know what's happening in these other counties. So there are other questions that aren't in here that maybe you all could think of, or the county commission might think of, that would be good pertinent questions to add to, or some of those questions maybe take out. I mean, it's the county commissions. Well, I'm just trying to feed you guys some information to help get this stuff started. But you do what you want to with it.
Well, everybody here knows that Doddridge County had a levy. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that the levy was taken away from the voters. You didn't even have a right to vote on the levy. So here's where we're at today. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
That's just point of information on anything you voted on.
Ed, thank you for your time that you've spent in making copies for all of us. And perhaps maybe we will put that on the next agenda and just look at these things and see if there's additional questions. I like one thing that Randy said, that, in our particular case now, when we had United Hospital Center, which was off of Davison Run exit, it was so much easier for us to go there. Now, the traffic, the nightmares of getting to UHC and getting out of there, makes a difference, whereas if you had a hospital in your own county. So if you will, let's take them, let's look these over, and if you want to add questions to it, add them, bring it back next week, or next meeting, and we'll discuss them. Okay, commission request.
Money.
I'll give that to Beth tomorrow.
Don't do it till he gets his credit card thing in line.
Oh, do I have to wait for your credit card, Butch?
We get 1% back off of that there, Chris. All right. Any other requests from the county commission? No, that's great.
No, you're questioning things. You're attempting to get to what I requested, which was to come up with an organization that is functional, but costs the county the least amount of money possible. And that's what you're working towards, so I'm pleased.
We're working at it, and I would like to comment with Randy. I thank him. He has contacted me 6 or 8 times between our meetings about the issues that come up and all, and I thank you for that. That keeps us abreast of what's going on, and that's very important. I think we keep that open communication. Thank you. Okay, at this point, are there any?
You want to do the 911?
The 911 center, central reports.
Everyone's responding on time, there's no delays. Everybody's getting out the doors.
Okay, very good. All right, do I hear a motion we go into executive session and discuss personnel matters?
So moved.
I second.